the details of Trump's emoluments corruption was just uncovered by the Washington Post. So we knew about, in fact, there are multiple emoluments cases against Donald Trump going through court right now and proceeding. Now, emoluments, basically what that means is, I know it sounds like a big fancy schmancy word, and you might be like, huh? I was too the first time I heard it. But basically what that means is, in the Constitution, it says that a president cannot take payment from foreign governments, because then that sets up a conflict of interest where the president might make policy to aid those foreign nations and not make policy in the best interests of the American people. So I file that under the duh category, but they give it the name emoluments. And it's funny because they don't, and perhaps they just couldn't foresee it at the time, but they don't say like, and our system right now is not geared towards, oh, you can't take money from giant mega corporations either, or billionaires either, because you'll bias policy in favor of them and not for the American people. That's not the way our system works, but that also should be in there. Like, that also should be part of the conversation. That also should be illegal and unconstitutional. This idea of like raising a shitload of money from billionaires or mega corporations or foreign governments. It really should be, we have publicly financed elections and then the politicians only represent the people. That's the ideal situation. But it actually is true that in the Constitution, they have that about foreign governments. You basically can't take money from foreign governments if you're president of the United States, and it should be pretty self-explanatory why that is. But now we know the inner workings of how this came to pass. So they say Saudi-funded lobbyists paid for 500 rooms at Trump's hotel after the 2016 election. Lobbyists representing the Saudi government reserved blocks of rooms at President Trump's D.C. hotel within a month of Trump's election in 2016, paying for an estimated 500 nights at the luxury hotel in just 3 months, according to organizers of the trips and documents obtained by the Washington Post. At the time, these lobbyists were reserving large numbers of D.C. area hotel rooms as part of an unorthodox campaign that offered U.S. military veterans a free trip to Washington, then sent them to Capitol Hill to lobby against a law the Saudis opposed, according to veterans and organizers. At first, Saudi lobbyists put the veterans up in Northern Virginia. Then, in December 2016, they switched most of their business to the Trump International Hotel in downtown Washington. In all, the lobbyists spent more than $270,000 to house 6 groups of visiting veterans at the Trump Hotel, which Trump still owns. All these bookings have fueled a pair of federal lawsuits alleging Trump violated the Constitution by taking improper payments from foreign governments. During this period, records show the average nightly rate at the hotel was $768. The lobbyists who ran the trips say they chose Trump's hotel strictly because it offered a discount from that rate and had rooms available, not to curry favor with Trump. Oh, please, bitch. Are you kidding me? By the way, perfect example of why you cannot have a president of the United States of either party being an international business person, because then it is so easy to buy what you want. And that is like the textbook definition of corruption. So look at how crafty they were. They said, oh, we're gonna pay for veterans. So they take something that they think is above politics in the U.S. Oh, the veterans, they've never done anything wrong ever, and if you say they did, you hate America. They take the veterans, they buy an amazing number of rooms, and then they also get them to lobby literally for Saudi legislation, for pro-Saudi legislation. Now, let me ask you a question. If there wasn't this incredibly close financial relationship between Trump and the Saudis, and listen, to be fair, the rest of the U.S. government and the Saudis as well, because they lobby everybody. But if there wasn't this close financial relationship, would they get all of these things that they want, that they end up getting? Like, for example, over $100 billion weapons deal. Like, for example, us looking the other way as they do a genocide in Yemen, and we also allow them on the Human Rights Council in the United Nations, which is a joke. I mean, literally that itself undermines everything else that the UN is doing, even in some areas, some really wonderful work, because all you have to do is say, Saudi Arabia is on the UN Human Rights Council, and then everybody laughs, and they say, what a joke of an international organization this is. But would they be allowed to get away with all this stuff if they didn't basically buy the entire U.S. government, including the President of the United States? Here's the answer to that. They wouldn't. Now, you could say, oh, but hold on. When Hillary Clinton was Secretary of State, then they also got weapons deals as well. Yeah, exactly. And think about Hillary Clinton. What was going on with her? Look at the Clinton Foundation and the massive amounts of money that the Clinton Foundation was getting from people who were in foreign governments and for rich business people all around the world. You think that they weren't doing favors for people from those governments? I mean, the idea that Hillary Clinton was out there saying women's rights are human rights and acting like she's this feminist icon while at the same time taking massive amounts of money from tyrannical Gulf states who treat women like second-class citizens, it's comical, and everybody knew it, and even Trump pointed it out. But now Trump is doing this with his businesses. So make no mistake about it, they could lie all they want. Of course this is an attempt to buy favors from Washington, D.C. Saudi Arabia, they have a massive number of lobbyists in Washington, D.C. In fact, remember with the Bernie Sanders, Mike Lee amendment that was just proposed in the Senate of, hey, let's stop aiding the Saudi genocide in Yemen, and it passed with over 60 votes. Remember that? Well, somebody did the awesome investigative reporting and found out that virtually all of the people, and it was all Republicans, by the way, who said, no, I'm pro-genocide and I'm going to side with Saudi Arabia, they all had taken money from Saudi lobbyists. Listen, guys, the entire system is fucking corrupt. They're not having, if they had a real debate of competing ideas and philosophies and policies, it would be awesome. And I'd be more than happy to engage in that debate where somebody might have a principled stance against me on any of a variety of issues. That's fine. That's wonderful. That's freedom. That's democracy. What we have is a fake debate in Washington, D.C. They said to Donald Trump about Jamal Khashoggi, oh, yeah, well, it looks like, MBS was behind it. And what did he do? He went to bat for MBS. Well, he says he wasn't. This is inconceivable in a system where Saudi money wasn't buying Washington, D.C. and buying Donald Trump. That wouldn't happen. Donald Trump used to say, before he ran for president, before he was totally bought out, he used to rail against Saudi Arabia and say, what are we talking about? They're responsible. Most of the hijackers on 9/11 came from Saudi Arabia. Who are we kidding? What a joke this is. Of course they're a problem. He used to rail against them. Now, he's a puppet just like the other presidents, but he's actually a puppet on steroids. Because you get the sense that at least with the other presidents, there would have been some little slappy slap on the wrist or something when they killed a journalist. But no. So here we go. I mean, this is the corruption. You want to talk about the swamp. This is the guy who said drain the swamp. He's adding to the swamp. That's what he's doing. He's bathing in the fucking swamp. He's chugging the swamp water. That's what he's doing. We taking hundreds of thousands of dollars from the Saudi government for them to stroke your ego and stroke the military-industrial complex's dick, and they get whatever the fuck they want because of your businesses. It should be mandatory, and perhaps the courts will rule this. You never know. It should be mandatory for presidents to totally divest from their businesses when they're president. I mean, at the very least, you have to completely turn it over to somebody else, and then you're not allowed to have any contact at all or have any idea what's going on in those businesses. That's the way it should work. Now, he's been lying about I turned it over into a blind trust. Financial experts looked at it and they're like, that's not a blind trust. What the fuck are you talking about? And it's also, your kids are running many of the businesses now. And what, we're supposed to believe they don't talk to you? I mean, it's a joke, man. It's a joke. They're making a joke of the few rules that we do have on the books. So this is unconstitutional. I'm happy that we now know the details of what's going on and how they're buying favors, how Saudi Arabia is buying favors. Now it's on the courts to do something about it. They better rule the right way. This one is not even close. This one is not even close. You can't have that. And by the way, it should have been the same thing with Hillary Clinton and the Clinton Foundation and the Clinton Global Initiative and all that stuff. You can't have Bill Clinton giving speeches for hundreds of thousands or millions of dollars. And then, oh, look at that. Hillary's, State Department decided to do favors for said country. This is the corruption that is rotting our government. Take a stand. It should be illegal. It should be unconstitutional, and there should be consequences.